My sister pretended to have cancer to swindle me out of $100,000 from my inheritance, meant for her struggling business. So I hired a private investigator and exposed her lies in court. Now, she's obligated to repay me for 3 years, and our entire family has disowned her for such appalling deception. My 31-year-old sister, Willow, is 28. We grew up in a middle-class family in Ohio. Our parents divorced when I was 15, and Willow was 12. Mom later remarried our stepdad, Rick, when I was 17. Our biological father passed away from a heart attack 3 years ago. He left me his house and approximately $180,000 in savings. Willow received some jewelry and about $30,000. The will clearly stipulated this distribution because I had been caring for him in his final years, while Willow was busy with her own life in California. She moved there right after college, seeking what she called better opportunities. Willow was always the drama queen in our family. In high school, she'd fake illnesses to skip tests. In college, she once falsely accused her roommate of stealing, when in fact she'd simply misplaced her own belongings. Mom always defended her, saying Willow was just more sensitive than most people. After college, Willow launched a small marketing firm in Los Angeles. She would call me every few months, always asking for money. Initially, it was $500 for office supplies, then $100 and $200 for a new computer, and later $2,000 to cover rent when a client was late on payment. I helped her because she was my sister, but I noticed the requests steadily escalated. About 6 months ago, Willow contacted me unexpectedly. She claimed her business was faltering and required a substantial investment to save it. She wanted me to give her $100,000 from Dad's inheritance, promising to repay me with interest once her business took off. I told her I needed time to consider, as that sum was over half of what Dad had left me. Willow became irate, calling me selfish. She reminded me that Dad always preached family sticking together. She insisted her business had genuine promise, and I was her only hope. I explained that I planned to use that money to buy a larger house and possibly start my own family someday. Willow retorted I could do those things later, but her business opportunity was happening now. I ultimately decided against giving her the money. I had already helped her numerous times over the years, never seeing any of it returned. Besides, I knew Willow's financial history was poor. In college, she maxed out 3 credit cards and had to ask Mom and Rick to bail her out. Willow ignored me for 2 weeks after I refused. Then she started calling Mom and Rick, claiming I was treating her unfairly. Mom called me, urging me to reconsider helping Willow, as she was supposedly facing significant hardship. Rick largely remained neutral, but did mention that family businesses could be sound investments. 3 weeks ago, the situation took a drastic turn. Willow called me, crying, saying she'd had some concerning doctor's tests and needed more. She claimed she was frightened and didn't want to alarm Mom until she knew more. I expressed my sympathy and offered to visit. Willow said she'd let me know about a visit after receiving her test results. A few days later, she called again, crying even harder. She stated doctors confirmed she had lymphoma, caught early, but requiring immediate treatment. She explained the treatment would be expensive and prevent her from working, guaranteeing her business would fail. I asked Willow which hospital she was attending and offered to research the best treatment options. She said she was still finalizing details with her doctors and would inform me. She then claimed her true need was for someone to temporarily manage her business, preventing its collapse during her treatment. Willow proposed that if I invested the $100,000 now, she could hire someone to handle day-to-day operations while she focused on recovery. She insisted that without the money, she would lose everything she'd worked for, while also battling cancer. She added that the stress of losing her business might even exacerbate her illness. I told Willow I needed to absorb this news and would call her back. That night, sleep eluded me. The thought of my sister having cancer was devastating. Yet something about the timing felt suspicious. She'd been asking for money for months. I'd refused, and now suddenly she had cancer, and needed the exact same sum. The next day, I called Willow and pressed her for more details about her diagnosis. She reacted defensively, calling me callous for questioning her while she battled cancer. She said she couldn't believe I would doubt her on such a matter. She began crying again, saying she'd expected more support. Willow then suggested if I couldn't give the full $100,000, perhaps I could start with $50,000. She claimed every day without treatment posed a danger to her health. She also said she'd already missed too much work due to appointments, and her most significant client was growing agitated. I asked Willow to send me her doctor's name so I could learn about lymphoma and possibly speak to her medical team regarding her outlook. She stated her doctor was extremely preoccupied and had no time to speak with family members, suggesting I research lymphoma online if I wish to understand it better. Over the next few days, Willow sent me text messages with updates on her health status. She mentioned treatment would begin soon, and she was endeavoring to remain optimistic. She claimed to have informed a few close friends about the diagnosis, but preferred to keep the news quiet to protect her professional connections. I decided to conduct my own research. I looked up lymphoma treatment costs and discovered that the majority of insurance policies cover significant expenses. I also learned that lymphoma treatment typically doesn't incapacitate individuals from working, especially if caught early, as Willow alleged. I called Willow and inquired about her insurance coverage. She claimed her insurance was complex due to her self-employment and a high-deductible policy. She said she would have to pay thousands personally before her coverage activated. She insisted that between the medical costs and her inability to work, she was on the brink of financial devastation. Willow then mentioned she had discussed the situation with Mom. She said Mom was deeply concerned and urged me to assist in any way possible. She relayed Mom's confusion as to why I was reluctant to aid my own sister amidst a health emergency. I called Mom to understand her viewpoint. Mom confirmed Willow's cancer diagnosis and her own fear for Willow. Mom said Willow appeared quite unwell the last time they video chatted, looking pale and emaciated. Mom implored me to consider helping Willow financially, as medical bills could lead to her financial collapse. After speaking with Mom, I started reconsidering my skepticism. What if Willow truly was sick and I was just being paranoid? What if the timing was mere coincidence? I decided to offer Willow $25,000 to help with immediate pressing costs while she finalized her therapy strategy. Willow said $25,000 wasn't enough to save her business, but it was preferable to nothing. She said she would accept it for now and hoped her treatment would be quick so she could return to work sooner than expected. I transferred the money to Willow's account and asked her to keep me updated on her treatment progress. She agreed, expressing gratitude for my assistance. She said it deeply appreciated my concern as her brother. 2 days after I sent the money, I was browsing social media and saw Willow had posted a picture from what appeared to be a restaurant. She was with friends, smiling. The post was from the very day I sent her the money. She looked radiantly healthy in the photo. I captured a screenshot of the image and then checked Willow's other recent posts. There were several photos from the past week showing her at various places around Los Angeles. In all of them, she looked normal and happy. There were no indications of sickness or medical intervention. I called Willow and asked how she was feeling. She said she was having a good day, but the treatment was extremely debilitating. She mentioned some days were better than others. I asked if she felt well enough to go out to restaurants with friends. Willow grew quiet for a moment. Then she said she was trying to preserve some semblance of normalcy during her treatment, and her friends were being supportive by taking her out occasionally. She claimed her physicians advised her to remain social when she felt capable. I told Willow I had seen her social media posts and she looked exceptionally healthy in all of them. She countered that photos could be misleading and she was skilled at feigning composure. She insisted I shouldn't judge her condition based on a few pictures. Willow then said she was wounded that I was scrutinizing her social media instead of simply trusting her about her health situation. She asserted it felt like I was seeking justifications to withhold support. She concluded that my suspicions were compounding the difficulty of an already trying circumstance. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the photos. Willow didn't. Just look okay. She looked perfectly fine. There was an absence of exhaustion, emaciation, or any other symptoms Mom had cited during their video chats. I decided to call Mom and ask more specific questions about what she had noticed during her conversations with Willow. Mom said Willow had looked tired and claimed she wasn't eating much. But when I asked Mom to describe Willow's exact appearance, her description didn't align with what I'd observed in the recent photos. I started checking Willow's social media daily. Every few days, new photos showed her looking completely well. She was at coffee shops, hiking trails, shopping centers, and restaurants. In every photo, she looked vibrant and cheerful. Meanwhile, Willow continued texting me updates about her treatment. She claimed she was starting chemotherapy next week and was apprehensive about the side effects. She said her hair might begin falling out and she was considering buying wigs. The glaring discrepancy between Willow's text messages and her social media posts became impossible to ignore. I realized I needed to uncover the reality about her medical situation. I called the main hospital in Willow's area and inquired if they had any patient details about her. They stated they couldn't provide patient information to family members without formal authorization from the patient. I called Willow and asked her to give the hospital permission to discuss her case with me. She replied that she wished to maintain the privacy of her health records and would update me directly on her treatment progress. Willow's refusal to let me verify her medical information solidified my doubts that something was amiss. A person genuinely battling cancer would want their family informed about their condition and treatment options. I then realized Willow had defrauded me of my funds under false pretenses, and I needed to confront her. Update 1. I chose to accumulate additional proof before directly addressing Willow about the fake cancer diagnosis. I needed to be unequivocally sure, as this was such a grave charge. I created an anonymous social media profile and started following Willow's friends who appeared in her recent photos. Through their accounts, I could see more pictures of Willow from the past month. In every single photo, she looked completely healthy. She was hiking, attending parties, and even participating in a fundraising 5K event. The charity-run photos were especially incriminating. Willow had run a 5K race just 2 days after she told me she was starting chemotherapy. In the photos, she was smiling and holding a medal. The race, Miles for Hope, was specifically raising money for cancer research. I found it revolting that Willow would engage in a cancer charity event while deceiving others about her own health. The photo showed her with several friends, all wearing matching t-shirts that said, "Fighting for a Cure." Willow had posted the photos with a description emphasizing the importance of contributing to cancer research. I also discovered that Willow had been posting regularly on a professional networking platform about her marketing firm. Her posts from the past month focused entirely on securing new clients and strategies for business expansion. There was no indication of health problems or therapy impacting her work routine. One post from just a week earlier discussed her work on a major project for a new client and her excitement about her business's growth potential. This directly refuted her assertions to me that her business was failing and she couldn't work due to cancer treatment. I decided to call some shared contacts who lived in Los Angeles to see if anyone had heard about Willow's alleged cancer diagnosis. I reached out to 3 people who knew Willow from college and still communicated with her. The first person I called was Emmett, who had been Willow's study partner in college and now worked in marketing in LA. I asked Emmett if he had heard anything about Willow having health problems recently. Emmett appeared taken aback by the question and said Willow seemed fine the last time he saw her, just a few days earlier at a networking event. Emmett said Willow had been discussing her business expansion and was actually seeking new office premises for more staff. He said she seemed more vibrant and hopeful than he had seen her in a long time. Emmett asked why I was inquiring about Willow's health, so I told him she had mentioned some medical issues to me. The second person I called was Leah, Willow's sorority sister. Leah also seemed perplexed by my inquiry about Willow's health. She said Willow had been highly engaged in their sorority's alumni group chat and was assisting with the planning of their upcoming reunion. Leah mentioned that Willow had volunteered to manage the marketing and publicity for the reunion. Leah added that Willow had posted in their group chat just yesterday about a new client she was excited to work with. Leah said Willow's business appeared to be thriving based on all her recent posts about new projects and clients. The third person was Milo, who worked in the same industry as Willow and sometimes referred clients to her. Milo said Willow had actually been more proactive in seeking new opportunities lately and had contacted him repeatedly in recent weeks asking for referrals. Milo said Willow had told him she was planning to hire 2 new employees in the next few months because she had an unmanageable workload. He said Willow seemed more active and prosperous than ever before. All 3 conversations verified Willow's deceit about both the cancer and her business failing. She was, in fact, flourishing in both her health and her work. I decided it was time to directly address Willow. I called her and asked to video chat so we could see each other while we talked. Willow claimed she felt too unwell for a video call and preferred to just talk on the phone. I told Willow I had been investigating lymphoma therapies and had some questions about her specific situation. I asked her which type of lymphoma she had been diagnosed with and what stage it was. Willow paused for a long time before answering. She said it was a rare type that was difficult to articulate, and she wished to avoid misstating medical terminology. She claimed her doctor was still assessing the precise stage. I asked Willow which hospital she was receiving treatment at. She said she was working with a group of experts across various sites and was unwilling to disclose specific information, fearing it might somehow compromise her therapy. Willow's ambiguous responses unequivocally demonstrated she couldn't furnish fundamental information about her alleged diagnosis because no such diagnosis existed. I told Willow I had seen her recent social media posts and observed her appearing exceptionally healthy in all the photos. I specifically mentioned the fundraising 5K event and asked her to explain how she was able to run a race while allegedly undergoing chemotherapy. Willow immediately became defensive. She said I was being unbelievably insensitive and that cancer patients could have moments of greater strength. She claimed participating in the charity run was important to her because it helped her feel like she was combating the illness. Willow said she was astonished by my doubts about her health instead of my support. She stated my attitude was compounding the difficulty of her treatment because she had to deal with stress from family on top of battling cancer. I told Willow I was having difficulty reconciling the disparate elements of her narrative. I said I wanted to be supportive, but I required some clarification about her situation. Willow started crying and said she was already apprehensive about her health, and now she had to worry about her own brother not believing her. She said she thought family was supposed to support one another during difficult times. Willow said, if I didn't trust her about something as grave as cancer, then perhaps we didn't have the kind of relationship she thought we had. She claimed she needed people around her who would believe her and support her without scrutinizing every detail. I told Willow I would support her if I knew she was truly sick, but the proof I had uncovered indicated her dishonesty about having cancer. I said deceiving about cancer to get money was unacceptable behavior. Willow hung up on me. About an hour later, she sent me a text message saying she was let down by me and required space to consider our bond. She stated that battling cancer was sufficiently arduous without having to validate her sickness to relatives. The next day, Willow called Mom. I know this because Mom called me later that day, deeply distressed. Mom said Willow had told her that I was alleging her dishonesty about having cancer and withholding further financial aid. Mom said she was astonished by my skepticism towards Willow about something so serious. She said Willow was already going through the most challenging ordeal she'd ever encountered, and now she had to deal with her brother doubting her. I tried to explain to Mom about the social media posts and the discrepancies in Willow's narrative, but Mom said social media posts weren't conclusive. Mom said some cancer patients tried to uphold a positive outlook and resume typical activities. when possible. Mom implored me to apologize to Willow and try to mend our bond. She said Willow needed family support more than ever, and I was exacerbating matters with my distrust. I told Mom I would consider apologizing if Willow could provide some fundamental proof of her diagnosis, like a letter from her doctor or medical records. Mom said I was being irrational and that health records were confidential. Mom said she was very disappointed in me and hoped I would regain my sensibility before it was too late to resolve matters with Willow. She said if something happened to Willow and I had spent her final months questioning her instead of supporting her, I would be haunted by remorse indefinitely. After speaking with Mom, I started having renewed uncertainty. What if Willow truly was sick and I was wrong about everything? The guilt of potentially abandoning a sick sister was burdening me greatly. But then I remembered all the proof I'd collected. The healthy photos, the business posts, the charity run, the conversations with shared contacts. There was an overwhelming number of inconsistencies for Willow's story to be true. I decided to take one more step to ascertain the facts. I hired a private investigator who focused on insurance deception. I figured if Willow was lying about having cancer to get money from me, it was tantamount to insurance fraud. The private investigator said he could investigate Willow's recent actions and health records. He said he could confirm if she had genuinely undergone treatment at any hospitals in her area. 3 days later, the private investigator reported his discoveries. He stated there was no documentation of Willow receiving cancer treatment at any hospital in Los Angeles. He said her insurance claims for the past year showed only standard medical appointments, such as yearly physicals and dental work. The investigator also provided me with a comprehensive account of Willow's activities over the past month. The report included photos of Willow at various locations, all showing her looking perfectly sound and engaged. The report confirmed that Willow had been posting regularly on social media and continuing her regular professional endeavors. The investigator said, based on his findings, there was no indication Willow suffered from cancer or was undergoing any significant medical therapy. I now had official confirmation that Willow had been lying to me about having cancer. I had proof that she had defrauded me of my inheritance and emotionally exploited me for the funds. I was ready to confront Willow with the truth and insist on the repayment of the funds she had taken from me. Update 2. Equipped with the private investigator's findings, I decided to approach Willow a last time before taking any legal action. I wanted to give her a chance to confess and willingly repay the funds. I called Willow and told her I needed to discuss something important with her. She said she was having a challenging day with her therapy but could talk for a few minutes. I told her I had some information about her medical situation that we needed to discuss. Willow instantly became defensive and asked what kind of information I thought I had. I told her I'd hired a private investigator who had confirmed she wasn't undergoing cancer therapy at any hospital in Los Angeles. There was utter quiet on the phone for about 30 seconds. Then Willow started crying and said she was aghast I'd employed someone to surveil her. She claimed having a private investigator follow her around was an invasion of her personal space and revealed my profound distrust. I told Willow the investigator hadn't followed her around but had merely confirmed her health records and policy claims. I said there was no proof she'd ever been diagnosed with or treated for cancer. Willow continued crying, claiming the investigator must have erred or accessed incorrect files. She insisted her health data was private and perhaps the investigator couldn't access all of it. I told Willow I also had photos of her participating in activities that would be infeasible for someone receiving chemo. I specifically mentioned the charity 5K run and asked her to explain how she was able to run a race while allegedly undergoing cancer therapy. Willow stopped crying and was quiet for a long time. Finally, she claimed she had been getting treatment from a confidential clinic whose records might not appear in standard files. She said some cancer patients opted for private care to preserve their anonymity. I asked Willow for the name of this private clinic so I could verify her treatment. She said she was unwilling to disclose that detail, fearing it might compromise her therapy if too many people knew about it. Willow said she was wounded that I'd employ a private investigator instead of simply trusting her word about her health. She said my actions showed that I didn't genuinely care about her as a sister and was only seeking justifications to withhold financial aid. I told Willow that deceiving about cancer was among the gravest acts a person could commit. I said if she was truly sick, I would do everything possible to help her, but I couldn't sustain my support for her deception. Willow hung up on me again. The next day, I received a long text message from her saying she was too ill to address my allegations and required to concentrate on her therapy. She said she hoped someday I would recognize my error about everything. I decided to send Willow duplicates of the investigator's findings along with a letter requiring the repayment of the $25,000 I had given her. I told her she had 30 days to return the money or I would pursue legal recourse. Willow didn't respond to my letter or return any of the money. After 30 days, I contacted a lawyer who focused on deception lawsuits. The lawyer reviewed all my proof and said I had a solid claim for restitution. The lawyer sent Willow an official letter of demand requiring her to return the money within 10 days or face a lawsuit for fraud. The letter detailed all the evidence I had gathered showing that she had lied about having cancer. 3 days after Willow received the lawyer's letter, she called me. She was neither tearful nor feigning illness. Instead, she was enraged, accusing me of attempting to sabotage her life. Willow said hiring a private investigator and threatening to sue her was excessive. She claimed even if she had overstated her medical issues, I was her brother and should have resolved matters with her discreetly instead of involving lawyers. I asked Willow if she was confessing her deceit about having cancer. She claimed she had been under immense pressure and perhaps misremembered some health details. She insisted her health problems were real, even if some of the particulars weren't entirely accurate. Willow said she had used the money I gave her for valid operational costs and couldn't repay it instantly. She said if I gave her time, she could reimburse me incrementally as her business revenue permitted. I told Willow that deceiving about having cancer wasn't merely misinterpreting medical data or overstating health problems. I said it was calculated deception, and I wanted the entire sum repaid at once. Willow said she didn't have $25,000 to return immediately because she had allocated it to her company. She said if I compelled her to produce the funds instantly, she would have to close her business and would be entirely unable to repay me. Willow offered to repay me $500 per month until the full amount was covered. She said this would take about 4 years but would guarantee I eventually got all my money back. I told Willow that her repayment scheme was unsatisfactory because she had acquired the funds fraudulently. I said she needed to find a way to return it immediately or face the ramifications of legal action. Willow said she might be able to secure a loan from acquaintances or a financial institution to pay me back faster. She asked if I would accept $10,000 immediately and then monthly payments for the remaining $15,000. I told Willow I would consider her offer if she also provided a formal confession that she had lied about having cancer and committed to informing Mom and other relatives of the truth about what she had done. Willow declined to publicly acknowledge that she had lied about cancer. She said it would destroy her credibility and harm her enterprise if people knew she had fabricated a cancer diagnosis. She said admitting to deceiving about cancer would be more detrimental than merely repaying the debt. Willow said she would return my money, provided I consented to keep the matter private. She said our family didn't need to know the particulars of our monetary dispute. I refused Willow's conditions. I told her that deceiving about cancer was more than a mere financial squabble among siblings. I said other family members merited knowing the facts of her conduct so they could make educated choices regarding their interactions with her. My lawyer initiated legal proceedings against Willow for fraud. The lawsuit became accessible public information, meaning anyone inquiring could observe that Willow was being sued for fabricating an illness to obtain money. Within a week of the lawsuit being filed, I started receiving calls from family members who had seen the court documents. Mom called first and was deeply distressed. She said she couldn't believe the situation had resulted in litigation. Mom said she had talked to Willow about the lawsuit, and Willow had refuted the accusation of fabricating her illness. Mom said Willow alleged I was suing her to recover funds I'd willingly provided to help with her medical expenses. I sent Mom duplicates of all the proof I had collected, including the private investigator's findings and photos of Willow looking healthy during the time she purported to be undergoing chemotherapy. I also sent Mom screenshots of Willow's social media posts about her business thriving. After reviewing the evidence, Mom called me back. She said she was stunned and uncertain what to credit. She said the proof was highly compelling, but she couldn't comprehend why Willow would deceive about such a grave matter. Mom said she was going to talk to Willow again and try to uncover the genuine facts of the situation. She said if Willow had really lied about having cancer, it would fundamentally alter their dynamic. Our stepdad Rick also called me after seeing the lawsuit. Rick said he had always thought there was something peculiar about Willow's cancer narrative, because she never exhibited physical symptoms when they video chatted. Rick said he endorsed my choice to take legal steps because deceiving about cancer was inexcusable. He said Willow needed to be held accountable for her conduct or she would continue to exploit others going forward. Several other family members also separated themselves from Willow after learning what she had done. Willow's reputation in our family was irreparably harmed, and the majority of family members ceased inviting her to family events. Willow had to deal with ramifications extending beyond our familial ties. The lawsuit was publicly accessible, and several people in her industry became aware of it. Willow forfeited some business accounts from clients who didn't want to work with someone who had perpetrated deception. Willow also had to deal with the social repercussions of her falsehoods. Some of her friends who had supported her during her fake cancer diagnosis felt deceived upon discovering the facts. Willow sacrificed multiple friendships and was compelled to reconstruct her social sphere. About 4 months after the lawsuit ended, I learned that Willow had actually deceived numerous individuals about her illness, not just me. Her uncle disclosed she'd solicited funds from him for medical expenses a few weeks earlier. 2 of her former college friends said she had also asked them for financial help, alleging a need for cancer therapy funds. The private investigator estimated that Willow had amassed at least $40,000 from diverse sources by feigning cancer. I was apparently not her sole target, merely the one who pursued legal recourse. Willow never reimbursed the funds she'd acquired from other people. Most of them lacked sufficient proof to initiate litigation like I did. They merely absorbed their losses and ceased communication with Willow. I sometimes wonder if Willow gained any insight from the legal battle and the harm to her connections. Based on what I've heard from Mom, Willow still appears to lack comprehension regarding others' discontent. She apparently thinks everyone is exaggerating what she terms a health misunderstanding. Willow has made no attempt at direct communication with me since the lawsuit concluded. I heard through Mom that Willow relocated to another Californian city, likely to escape those aware of her deceptions. Willow apparently told Mom she required a new beginning elsewhere. I feel no remorse for seeking legal recourse against Willow. Deceiving about having cancer is not an innocent error or lapse in discretion. It's a deliberate deception, crafted to leverage others' empathy for selfish benefit. The money I recovered from Willow helped, but the true worth lay in demonstrating that deception carries repercussions. Willow learned that she couldn't exploit relatives without enduring genuine consequences. I used part of the recovered money to contribute to a reputable cancer research charity. It felt fitting to allocate some funds to genuinely aid cancer patients rather than supporting a fraud. My relationship with Mom has actually strengthened since the lawsuit. Mom said she was impressed by my handling of the situation and the thoroughness of my evidence collection before taking action. She said she learned to be more wary of Willow's assertions in the future. I have not had any contact with Willow since the court case, and I don't plan to in the future. Willow chose to value wealth above familial bonds, and now she has to live with the repercussions of that choice. The inheritance money from Dad was supposed to help me build my future, not facilitate Willow's deceit and exploitation. I'm glad I contended to safeguard it rather than merely accepting Willow's deception as a family burden. Willow is still making her monthly payments and has not contacted me about lessening or altering the repayment plan. I presume she'll maintain payments until the obligation is entirely fulfilled in about 2.5 more years. I learned that familial ties do not absolve deception, and that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones most inclined to exploit your confidence. Willow taught me to corroborate assertions rather than blindly trusting relatives automatically. The whole experience was challenging, yet essential. I safeguarded my finances and erected limits Willow couldn't transgress without ramifications. I would replicate the same choices if confronted with a parallel scenario. Now, let's move to the subsequent account. Story 2. My stepdad betrayed his vow to my dying mom and expelled me. Now he wants to seek reconciliation, but I prioritized my self-worth instead. I never had a close bond with my stepfather, Tom, 52 Emmers. He entered my life when I was 12, shortly after my birth father's sudden passing from a heart attack. It was a challenging period for both my mom, 47F, and me. We were still mourning when Tom appeared. My mom met Tom at a bereavement support group for widows and widowers. She was fragile and seeking camaraderie, and Tom appeared to offer it. They dated for about a year before getting married when I was 14. I remember feeling apprehensive about the entire circumstance, but I wanted my mom to be happy, so I endeavored to be supportive. From the beginning, Tom treated me like a stranger in my own household. He never physically abused me, but the emotional disregard was relentless and devastating. I distinctly recall the first time I realized things weren't going to be okay. It was during the first Christmas after their marriage. Tom had bought expensive gifts for my mom and dramatically presented them to her. When it came time for my gift, he handed me an impersonal gift card with a barely audible holiday greeting. The sharp disparity between his treatment of my mom and me was agonizingly apparent. Growing up, I endeavored to connect with Tom. I would ask about his work as an accountant, offer to help with yard work, and even tried to learn about his hobby of model train building, but he always seemed disinterested or irritated by my efforts. He would spend time with my younger stepsister, Lisa, 15F, who was born a year after their marriage. They would work on puzzles together or watch sports, but whenever I tried to join in, he'd devise a reason to depart or dispatch me on a task. My mom noticed this behavior, but she always dismissed it, saying Tom needed time to adapt to having a stepdaughter. She would attempt to make up for it by spending extra time with me, but it wasn't the same. I could see the pressure it exerted on their union, and I began to feel culpable for creating issues. As the years went by, I learned to become self-reliant. I focused on my studies and spent most of my time in my room or at friends' houses. I joined the school's drama club and immersed myself in rehearsals and shows. It gave me a haven for belonging and self-expression, something I couldn't do at home. Tom never made an effort to attend any of my plays or show any interest in my life. When I secured the starring part in my senior year production, he failed to even acknowledge it. My mom came to every performance, but Tom always found a pretext for absence. When I graduated high school, Tom didn't even congratulate me. At the graduation ceremony, he appeared disengaged and frequently consulted his watch. During the celebratory dinner my mom had planned, he spent most of the time on his phone, scarcely participating in discussion. It hurt, but by then I had become accustomed to his apathy. I chose a college close to home, partly because I was worried about my mom. Their marriage had become progressively tense over the years, and I wanted to be nearby in case she needed support. Tom appeared relieved when I moved into the dorms, even though I still came home most weekends. Things deteriorated when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer during my sophomore year of college. She had always been healthy and active, so the diagnosis was startling to all of us. I promptly took a leave from college to help care for her. Tom was around, but he appeared more preoccupied with his job and personal requirements than supporting my mom or me. I remember one exceptionally tough day during my mom's chemotherapy. She was feeling terrible and could barely leave her bed. I spent the day taking care of her, making sure she remained hydrated and at ease. When Tom came home from work, instead of offering to help, he grumbled about the untidy house and lack of prepared dinner. I was furious, but for my mom's sake, I held my peace and quickly made a simple meal. As my mom's health declined, Tom became more withdrawn. He would spend long hours at work or seclude himself in his office at home. I assumed increasing responsibility, juggling my mom's care with my academic pursuits. It was draining, yet I couldn't contemplate not being present for her. My mom died half a year ago, and that's when my world crumbled. The last few weeks of her life were a haze of hospital calls and whispered discussions with doctors. Tom was there physically, but emotionally he seemed disengaged. When she finally passed, I was holding her hand. Tom was in the hallway, on his phone discussing a work matter. After the funeral, Tom transformed almost instantly. He became cold and aloof, barely recognizing my existence in the house. 2 weeks. After we laid my mom to rest, he sat me down in the kitchen, the same place where my mom and I used to have our intimate talks, and told me I needed to move out. His words were a direct affront. "Now that your mom is gone, there's no purpose for your continued presence here. You're an adult, and it's time you established your own independence." He gave me a month to find a new place. I was stunned and devastated. I had just lost my mom, the one person who had always been there for me, and now I was losing my home too. I tried to reason with Tom, reminding him that I was still in college and had scarce resources. I had been working part-time at a local bookstore, but it was insufficient to entirely sustain myself. Tom didn't care. He said I was an adult and needed to manage things independently. The next few weeks were a frenzy of anxiety and urgent arrangements. I contacted friends and relatives, trying to find a place to stay. Most were compassionate, yet could only offer provisional accommodations. It was my best friend, Alex, 23F, who proved invaluable. She and her parents offered to let me stay in their guest room while I determined my next moves. With no other choice, I gathered my possessions. As I was boxing up my things, I discovered old photo albums and keepsakes from my childhood. Pictures of my biological father, my mom, and me in happier times. It dawned on me then that I wasn't just losing my current home, but also the final tangible link to my history, to my mom. The day I moved out, Tom was strategically absent. He left a note saying he had an urgent work matter. Lisa was there, crying and confused. She didn't understand why I had to leave, and I lacked the fortitude to fully explain the situation to her. I vowed to maintain contact and hugged her goodbye, with a sense of deserting her as well. Over the next few months, I immersed myself in academics and took on additional work at the bookstore to meet my financial obligations. It was challenging, but I was coping. Alex and her family were immensely supportive, treating me as family. Still, I couldn't escape the sensation of aimlessness, of lacking a sense of belonging anywhere. I severed all communication with Tom and tried to concentrate on recovery and progress. Lisa would text me occasionally, and we'd meet up for coffee when we could. She told me that Tom had become more reclusive at home, spending most of his time working or alone in his study. Last week, unexpectedly, Tom reached out to me. He sent a text saying he wanted to talk and that he lamented the way things concluded between us. The message caught me off guard. Part of me wanted to ignore him to continue with the complete separation I'd made, but another part was interested in his perspective. I haven't responded yet. I'm undecided whether to allow him to explain or maintain no communication. Lisa has also been texting me more often, stating Tom has altered and desires reconciliation, but I'm dubious. After years of emotional deprivation, and then expelling me when I was most susceptible, I'm not sure if I can trust him again. I'm conflicted between seeking resolution and fearing renewed pain. The logical side advises maintaining separation, but there's a small voice inside that still longs for the paternal affection and validation I never received from Tom. Should I hear him out, or should I continue to keep my distance and focus on building my own life? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. It's been a month since my last post, and I wanted to update you all on what's been happening. After considerable thought and Lisa's urging, I decided to meet with Tom. We agreed to meet at an impartial venue, a coffee shop near my college campus that I used to study at before everything happened. The days leading up to the meeting were filled with anxiety. I found myself unable to concentrate on my classes, continually replaying possible outcomes in my head. Alex, bless her, listened patiently as I expressed my anxieties and uncertainties. She even offered to wait nearby during the meeting should circumstances deteriorate. But I decided this was something I needed to do on my own. When I arrived, at the coffee shop, Tom was already there. He looked more aged and fatigued than I remembered, with more gray hair and pronounced facial lines around his eyes. As soon as I sat down, he started offering profuse apologies. He admitted that he had managed everything inadequately after my mom's death and that he lamented his conduct. Tom explained that he had been grappling with his own sorrow and lacked coping mechanisms. He said seeing me every day reminded him of my mom, and it was too agonizing for him to bear. He acknowledged that it was no justification for his conduct, but he wanted me to grasp his perspective. As he spoke, I found myself remembering little moments from the past, times when I had caught him looking at me with an enigmatic look, or occasions when he had suddenly exited the room when I entered. I had always construed these actions as aversion or apathy, but now I wondered if there had been deeper meaning. During our conversation, Tom disclosed an unknown fact. Apparently, shortly before my mom passed away, she had made him pledge to care for me. He said he felt like he had disappointed her by distancing me, and the remorse had plagued him for months. He produced a letter from his pocket, Mom's final correspondence, written to him from the hospital. In it, she conveyed her affection for us both and her aspiration that we would be there for each other after she was gone. Reading my mom's words moved me to tears. I could almost hear her voice brimming with hope and affection. It made Tom's later actions even more painful, knowing that he had disregarded her dying wishes. I listened to everything Tom had to say, but I didn't immediately grant forgiveness. I told him how much pain and abandonment I experienced when he expelled me. I explained the hardships I'd endured trying to sustain myself and pursue education independently, without any help. I told him about the nights I wept myself to slumber, missing my mom and feeling completely isolated in the world. Tom seemed truly repentant. He proposed financial assistance and said he wanted to try and reconstruct our bond. He even recommended family counseling for us and Lisa, recognizing his actions had also impacted her. I left the meeting feeling ambivalent. On one hand, I valued Tom's candor and his attempt at reconciliation. It was more than I had ever expected from him. On the other hand, I couldn't dispel the sense of distrust that had built up over the years. Could I really believe that he had changed? Or was this just fleeting remorse that would dissipate, leaving me hurt once again? After the meeting, I discussed matters with Alex and her parents, who have become like an adoptive family to me. They've seen me through some of my most challenging times over the past months, and I respect their counsel. They advised me to exercise prudence and avoid hasty decisions. Alex's mom, in particular, cautioned me about the abuse dynamic where phases of regret and positive conduct are succeeded by a relapse into former habits. I also contacted my aunt, my mom's sister, who I hadn't spoken to in a while. She was astonished by Tom's shift in attitude and counseled caution. She reminded me that I have no obligation to Tom, irrespective of any pledges made to my mom. Her words provided confidence in a gradual approach. After much thought, I decided to proceed incrementally. I agreed to infrequent calls with Tom and to meet Lisa for lunch every couple of weeks. I made it clear to Tom that while I'm receptive to enhancing our bond, I'm not yet prepared to fully confide in him. I told him that his previous conduct had profoundly wounded me and that restoring trust would be a lengthy process, if even feasible. As for his proposal of monetary aid, I'm still unsure. Part of me wants to accept it because it would make my life easier. I've been contending with work-study balance, and the extra money would be an immense comfort, but another part feels like it might create complexities. I worry that Tom might use financial support as a way to manipulate me or mitigate his culpability. For now, I've told him I require time for consideration. It's a peculiar predicament to be in. I never anticipated Tom reaching out or attempting reconciliation. For so long, I had accepted the reality that he would never be the paternal presence I desired. Now I'm trying to manage this evolving relationship while safeguarding my emotional well-being. Lisa is delighted Tom and I are communicating once more. She's been texting me more often, sharing details about her life that she had previously withheld. I can tell she's wishing for us to reunite as a family again, but I've mildly clarified that matters aren't so straightforward. As for me, I'm trying to maintain subdued expectations. I'm continuing with my therapy sessions, which have been immensely beneficial in addressing these complex feelings. My therapist has encouraged me to establish definite limits with Tom and to heed my own emotions throughout this process. I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Thank you all for your support and advice. It's been indispensable during this trying period, and I'm thankful for this supportive community. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have developed with Tom. After our initial meeting, we've been in consistent communication via calls and infrequent gatherings. At first, things seemed to be improving. Tom was endeavoring to be more engaged in my life. He asked about my classes, my job, and was even present at one of my university presentations. It felt strange, but somewhat nice to have his support after all these years. There were moments when I perceived hints of what our bond might have resembled if things had been different. We had a few good conversations where Tom disclosed details about his upbringing. He told me about his austere, emotionally reserved father and how he had always found difficulty conveying feelings. It helped me understand him a little better, though it didn't vindicate his prior conduct. However, as time went on, some familiar habits began to surface. Tom began to remark that I should exhibit gratitude for his efforts and that I needed to move past prior events. These comments usually came after I showed reluctance or upheld a limit. For example, when I refused his invitation to a family dinner at his house, saying I wasn't comfortable with that yet, he got upset. He accused me of fixating on the past and failing to value his efforts. It reminded me of how he used to disregard my emotions when I was younger. Tom also started exerting pressure for me to return home with him and Lisa, claiming it would be beneficial for all. He argued that I could reduce housing expenses and that Lisa missed having me around. While I appreciated the offer on some level, it felt like he was attempting to obliterate the past to go back to a normal that had never really existed for us. The situation with Lisa has become complex as well. She's stuck in the middle, wanting us all to be a happy family again. I've tried to explain to her that restoring connections requires patience, but I can tell she's displeased with the gradual progress. The crucial moment came last week when Tom and I had a major disagreement. He had offered to pay for my textbooks this semester, which I hesitantly agreed to after thorough thought. But when I went to purchase them, I found out he had revoked the payment without informing me. When I confronted him about it, he said he reconsidered, believing I undervalued his assistance. This incident resurfaced prior feelings of suspicion and pain. It made me realize that while Tom might regret his actions, he hasn't genuinely transformed. He's still attempting to dictate circumstances and my emotions, just like he did when I was younger. During the argument, Tom said some damaging remarks. He referenced my birth father, suggesting I was comparing them unfairly. He also implied Mom would be let down by my insufficient effort to repair our bond. Using my mom's memory like that felt like a cheap shot and rekindled the grief of her loss. After this argument, I've decided to withdraw from our attempts at reconciliation. I told Tom I require distance and that I don't think it's healthy for us to persist in forcing a bond that might not be possible. His reaction was a blend of rage and supplication, which only validated my decision. Lisa is displeased with my choice. She thinks I'm being excessively severe and that I should give Tom more chances. But I've explained to her that while I love her and want to maintain our relationship, I need to privilege my psychological and emotional health. It's been difficult for her, and I feel culpable for her distress, but I understand it's imperative. I'm recentered on my academics and employment. The academic term is becoming more demanding, and I'm thankful for the diversion. Alex and her family continue to be a strong support network for me. They've reassured me of my welcome to stay with them as long as I need, which has been an immense comfort. I'm also contemplating joining a bereavement group for orphaned individuals, as I realize I still have considerable sorrow to address. My therapist suggested it could be beneficial to connect with peers who relate to what I'm going through. This experience has imparted the lesson that occasionally, no matter how much we want things to work out, some bonds are best left behind. It's a tough realization, but I think it's a crucial one for my growth. I'm trying to focus on the relationships that are constructive and nurturing in my life rather than chasing after one that has inflicted such agony. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It's been an emotional upheaval, but I'm feeling more resilient and resolute in my choices now. I'll update again if there are any notable changes. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some concluding reflections on this matter. A lot has changed in my life, predominantly for the positive. After I decided to withdraw from attempting to restore a connection with Tom, I focused on myself and my future. I immersed myself in my academics and succeeded in obtaining an internship in my field of study, environmental science. It's been demanding balancing the internship with coursework and part-time employment at the bookstore, but also remarkably gratifying. I'm learning so much and feeling more assured about my professional future. Tom tried to contact me a few times after our disagreement. At first, his messages initially conveyed regret, but when I didn't respond, they grew more accusatory. He even showed up at the bookstore once, creating a disturbance that nearly led to workplace difficulties. After that incident, I explained to him firmly that while I bear no animosity towards him, I'm uninterested in cultivating a paternal relationship. I told him that if he genuinely valued my welfare, he would honor my limits. It was a difficult conversation, but I felt it was essential for my emotional tranquility. Lisa and I have succeeded in preserving our bond, despite some tension. She found my choice difficult to comprehend, but she has shown respect. We still have occasional lunches and maintain contact through texts and calls. Recently, she shared that the atmosphere at home with Tom has been strained. I've encouraged her to concentrate on her aspirations and recalled that she can always contact me if she needs support. The most notable transformation in my life has been my housing arrangement. With the money I accrued from my internship and part-time employment, I was able to move into a modest studio flat. It's not much, but it's mine, and it feels amazing to possess my own domain. I've adorned it with photographs of Mom and childhood keepsakes, establishing a space that feels personal and comforting. I've also started attending a bereavement support group, as I mentioned I was considering in my last update. It's been immensely beneficial to connect with others who've experienced parental loss. Exchanging narratives and coping mechanisms has aided my grieving process in ways I hadn't been able to before. My relationship with Alex and her family remains resilient. Even though I've moved out, they insist I join them for meals at least once a week. Their continued support has shown me what a nurturing family environment can look like, and I'm thankful for their presence in my life. Looking back on this whole experience, I realize my significant personal development. While it was agonizing to endure, I've gained crucial insights into self-value, personal limits, and the significance of authentic support networks. I've also learned that it's okay to release relationships that cease to be beneficial, even familial ones. I still think about my mom every day, and there are times when the sorrow impacts me intensely. But I'm learning to cherish her memory in a comforting rather than distressing manner. I like to think she'd be proud of my handling of this ordeal and the individual I'm evolving into. I want to express gratitude to all who offered counsel and encouragement throughout this journey. Your encouraging words provided immeasurable assistance. While this phase of my life concludes, I'm eager for what lies ahead. I'm concentrating on completing my degree, advancing my career, and fostering constructive relationships in my life. To anyone going through a comparable circumstance, remember that it's okay to prioritize your personal welfare, even if it means making tough choices regarding familial bonds. Recovery requires time, yet it is attainable. You're more resilient than you realize. This will be my concluding update on this situation. Thank you all once again for being there through this challenging time. Your support has meant everything to me.